Now I'm going to begin this section by talking about specific shot sizes and angles. Now these terms are thrown around on set everywhere, all over the globe. It doesn't matter if it's an indie small production or if it's a large Hollywood film. These terms are universally known, so learning what all of these are and what they mean are super important if you're looking to get into filmmaking. So the first term is extreme wide. And your extreme wide is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a really large wide shot of a subject. Next up, we've got a wide shot. And this is a wide shot again, but it's just a little bit closer in. Typically, if you're filming somebody, your wide shot is going to be head to toes. You're going to see everything in the frame. Next up, we've got a mid shot, and this is coming in closer. Your mid shot is generally above the knees. The term mid shot is used, but the term medium shot is also used as well. So mid, medium, they both mean the same thing, and that's framing from the knees up. Next, you've got a close-up, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a close-up on somebody, and this is generally from the chest up, so somewhere around here. Then you've got your extreme close-up, and your extreme close-up is going to focus on details. So if we're filming that same person, the extreme close-up is going to be a close-up on the side of the face, or maybe just the eyeball or the nose or the mouth. Your extreme close-up is picking up those precise details. So you've got your extreme wide, you've got your wide, your mid/medium, your close-up, and your extreme close-up. All of these pretty easy to understand. So let's get a little bit more complicated now. Let's talk about angles. So a high angle is going to place the camera in a higher position and will look down. And a high angle is generally used when you're looking down on somebody, so you're trying to make them look inferior. So it's almost like they're looking up to the camera, and you typically see this when parents are looking down at children, or you've got a godlike character looking down on the other characters. Then you've got the reverse of that, and this is a low angle. So this is low to the ground, looking up, and this is the reverse of that. So we're looking up to that powerful figure. So this is implying that the person we're looking up to is really powerful. Of course, though, it doesn't have to mean that, but generally when these two are used in filmmaking, this is what we're trying to convey. So a high angle looking down is looking down on somebody, and the low angle is looking up to that high almighty character. Now we're going to go a little bit more fancy, and we're going to talk about establishing shots. So an establishing shot is basically just a shot that is going to establish the scene. So if we're filming a video in a house, for example, the establishing shot will be the exterior of the house. So it's just a shot of the house outside, and then we can cut in to see the action. The whole point of the establishing shot is to establish where and when this action is taking place. So if we just cut straight into a scene and we were just cutting between different angles, we don't really know where this is happening, what time of day this is, and a bunch of other factors. But if we use the establishing shot to begin with, we know we're in this house and this is where the scene is taking place. It's just giving us, the audience, more information. Next up, we've got OTS, or over the shoulder. And over the shoulder is exactly what it sounds like. It's placing the camera behind somebody's shoulder, so you can see the back of their head, you can see their shoulder, and you've got them framed up on the one side of the frame, and generally you see this in a conversation. So let's say we've got two people in a scene here. In the foreground of the shot, we've got the over the shoulder, so we've got the back of the head in the one side, that's in the foreground, and then the main subject is the actual subject that we're talking to. So generally this is used in a conversation type scene. And that takes us on quite nicely to the 180-degree rule. Now, the 180-degree rule sounds really complex, but it's actually quite simple once you've wrapped your head around the idea. Now, the 180-degree rule is a rule that is used to keep the orientation balanced. So we've got a conversation between two people. If we use the 180-degree rule correctly, we understand that these two characters are looking at each other having a conversation. But when it's not used correctly, people can be looking in random directions and the scene will seem off. It won't look great, it won't look right, and if you don't know what it is, then you might get confused. So generally, what the 180-degree rule is it's putting a line in the center of the scene. So we've got two people chatting. So draw a line down the middle of their face, they're standing opposite each other, put a line down the middle of them, and pick a side. So you can pick the left side or you can pick the right side. Just stick to that one side. So if we're going to stick to the right side, stick to that side. So you can get your close-up of your one person on that side, and then you can get the close-up of the other person on that same side. Now, when we do this, if we shoot this from the same side, it's going to look like they're talking to each other. But the problem is when we cross that line, we shoot one shot from the one side, we cross over and we shoot the other shot from the other side, it looks like they're facing the same direction. So it's really important that we follow the 180-degree rule to make sure that our characters are looking at each other. And this is really important because if you neglect this, then your viewer is going to be really confused. You typically see this with comedy skits or low budget films. You have people looking the same direction. You've got this conversation scene and people are facing the same direction. And if you don't know what you're looking for, it feels off, but you don't know why. That's why you wouldn't have a conversation with somebody at the back of their head. So don't create that effect in camera. Follow the 180-degree rule and you won't have any issues. Of course, that is not a strict rule. If you know what you're doing and you know how to break the 180-degree rule, then you can actually use that to confuse the audience on purpose. But generally, when you're starting out in filmmaking and photography, you're not trying to confuse people. You're trying to make a film that is going to entertain people and you want people to understand what's happening. So follow the 180-degree rule and you'll avoid confusing your audience.